Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Sactown Movie Buffs. Once again, I'm Kier, and this is Jason. And it's been some time, but we are back again with our top 10 films. If you've been following our series, we took a little bit of a break. Usually, around about the holidays, we started taking a little bit of a break on these top 10 lists. We started with 1995, from when we basically first met, and we've been kind of moving forward through the years of each of our top 10 films of that particular decade. I mean, that particular year, I'm sorry. And now we're already on 2010. So we're moving and grooving. We really only have another decade to get through, and then we'll be done. But we're moving up. We're moving on up, man. So we're doing well. So if this is your first time watching our top 10 films, basically we break it up into two parts. So what we do is we do our number 10 through number 6. And then we'll do a second show where we do our number 5 through number 1 with some honorable mentions. Also, on the first part of this show, we also assign each other challenge films. So basically, there's a film that I've seen that Jason hasn't seen, and then he has to basically watch it and give a review of that film. Vice versa, there's also a film that he's seen. Well, there's tons of films that he's seen that I haven't seen that he assigns to me. It's a little bit less the other way around. That he assigns to me that I have to watch and give a review on. And so that's basically what we've been doing for the last, for most of the shows we've done this. We started it somewhere around the middle of it, but we've been doing that for most of the shows. So I say without further ado, we get right into it. I'm going to go ahead and have you start with your film, your homework assignment, which I assigned to you, which was The Next 3 Days. Tell us a little bit about that film.
The Next 3 Days, it's been a couple of months at least since I watched it. But basically, it stars it's Russell Crowe as a guy who his wife, played by Elizabeth Banks, I think, is arrested for murder, and he decides to spring her out of jail. Now, there's a lot more to it. It's a pretty long movie. It's over 2 hours long, but that's the gist of it. He embarks on a quest to break her out of jail. Not so much prove that she's innocent, because they already tried that. They already tried to do that. But he's going to try to break her out of jail. So I thought it was okay. I thought it was all right from what I remember. I thought it was pretty entertaining for a while, but toward the end, it seemed like, from my memory, I've probably watched 100 movies since then, but not even kidding, probably about 100 movies since then. But I thought it kind of started to fall apart toward the end a little bit. I started to ask more questions, and it started to kind of distract me from the movie itself. And then when I found out that it was written and directed by Paul Haggis, then it kind of made sense, because that's kind of what he does. Like, he directed the movie Crash, the one that won a whole bunch of Oscars, but now everybody pretty much everybody is like, why did that win all those Oscars? Because it wasn't all that great. It was kind of the same here. Like, he does this thing where he creates some interesting characters, but then the way he moves them around, it doesn't really make sense. And then he always wants to throw in like a last act twist that doesn't really make sense if you think about it. So it was kind of the same here. Like, I started to have more questions than answers, and at the end, They want to throw in a little twist. I don't want to get into spoilers, but they want to throw into like a last minute, oh, that explains everything kind of thing that I thought was just kind of silly. But I thought it was all right. It was about a C+ for me. Mm-hmm. So sorry, Kier.
Fair enough. All right. Well, it didn't make my top 10.
Yeah.
So, it's not like I'm going to fight you for it. Like I said, when we do these challenge films, I'm pretty much, having to go with, films that I generally like, not films I necessarily loved. But I do like The Next 3 Days quite a bit. I actually own it, but I do like it. I guess I could. The twist shouldn't bother me. I mean, if you could do that with almost any film. You could, that if you're super into the film, you're not going to question it too much. But if you're maybe not as into it, then you start questioning things a little more. So, I mean, there's tons of movies that you love where if we really broke it down, some of the twists were like kind of weak. You know what I mean? But it's just one of those things. So, And then, you know, with every twist, it's like sometimes if you watch it a second time, sometimes things don't quite add up all the time or whatever case may be. So, but yeah, glad you watched it. Glad you mostly enjoyed it. But we'll see what 2011 brings for that. So, all right. And then you assigned me a challenge film as well, which I will go ahead and take that one on. The film you assigned me was Catfish. So I had never seen Catfish. I have seen the show, and I'm familiar with the term. I mean, it's like a global term now. You know, probably mostly in part based on the show, which spawned from this movie. And basically, so if you haven't seen the movie Catfish, it's basically the main guy. I think his name's like Nev or something of that nature. Basically, he is him and his brothers, they all work at like this like movie studio kind of thing or whatever. And, he starts getting like artwork from this person and her family. And it's going to be kind of a tough film to describe without going into full details. But he gets like this. He starts getting artwork from this family. This little girl that's like doing these pictures, and she's making like drawings of him and his friends and that kind of stuff. And then he's loving the artwork and stuff like that because he's doing like photography, and then she's doing it and she's turning into like artwork, and so he's loving it. And she's painting it by hand. And this girl's supposed to be like, I don't know, like 8 or something like that. And then he starts finding out more information about her mom and her family and brothers and sisters. And then she's got like this older sister that he kind of forms like this friendship with online. And I think they were on Facebook, right? Was it Facebook or MySpace? I don't remember. It's been, I don't know. It's been, like I said, it's been, I feel like, not 100 movies for me, but it's been at least, 50 movies for me, so I don't remember.
I mean, I haven't seen it since 2010. Probably.
Oh well, then yeah, so. you definitely won't remember then. But yeah, it's either Facebook or MySpace. I can't remember which one off the top of my head. But basically, he starts like kind of following. They start following him. The family starts following him. That kind of stuff, and then he really starts getting interested in this girl, and they start kind of forming this relationship. There's obviously some flirty talk, and they're talking about meeting each other and that kind of stuff. And then he basically does get an opportunity to, like, he's basically in this town that's not too far from where she lived, because they don't live in the same state. He's like in New York and she's someplace like in the Midwest or something of that nature. But he has to fly someplace, I don't know, maybe like one state over or something of that nature, where it would only take him maybe like 6 hours to drive there. And so once he gets there, he talks about meeting her, and like she's kind of like making all these excuses about why they can't meet and this kind of stuff. And so then he basically starts, questioning whether or not things are real, and he starts finding out some things about this lady that, maybe isn't on the up and up. And then so he just decides upon himself to kind of drive out there to her house, because he does have her home address, to figure out, exactly what is going on with this girl, and then kind of goes from there. And like I said, I don't want to go into spoilers in case anybody hasn't seen it. I know it's been a decade now, so most people that, if you're interested in it, you probably have seen it, or you're at least familiar with the concept of what catfishing is. So I don't have to go too much into it, but obviously there's some things that aren't on the up and up. Let's just leave it at that. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was great. Like I said, I was definitely engaged, even though I knew what the concept was. I knew basically what the film was going to be about. So I kind of already, because of having known that term, because now it's like a global term, everybody uses it, that kind of stuff. Basically just in a nutshell means that someone's lying to you, or somebody's not who they claim that they are. And that's they have a whole show about it, where they've had tons of, I don't know, like 3 or 4 seasons about catfishing. So we all know what the term is. So you can kind of guess exactly what's going on there. But I'm still engaged. I was still interested because I didn't know how everything was going to unfold. It's like one of those films I almost feel like you almost had to watch it at the time that when you first found out, because it would have been way more interesting had I, didn't know what that term meant, or didn't know anything about that term, then I would have had no clue. But as soon as I started, I was like, okay, well, something's going to be wrong with whoever he forms a relationship with online, but I still didn't know how everything was going to unfold. So it was still interesting in that regard. So I did. I liked it. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a fun film. Definitely one that, if you haven't seen, definitely check out. But, of course, like I said, if you haven't seen it by now, you probably get the gist of what more than likely is going to transpire in the film. So, and that's it.
Cool. Yeah. I remember when it came out, it caused quite a stir. There was a lot of buzz around it and all that kind of stuff. And I think even when I saw it back then, I think it was kind of like, I kind of already knew what it was about. It was about, the whole concept of online dating was still kind of new at that point. And
Right.
It was still kind of a shocking idea that somebody might not be who they say they are. You know what I mean? It was kind of shocking back then. Now it's like commonplace, especially since this movie kind of implemented that phrase into the vernacular, and it led to the whole show. Which honestly, ironically, I've never seen the show. I've seen the movie, not the show. You had seen the show, but not the movie. So, but yeah, I remember, even knew back then there was some kind of twist or something. But I remember being really, really into it. But it's been 10 years. So beyond that, I just remember that I liked it a lot.
Yeah, but definitely, definitely a good one. Not a bad choice at all. So, cool. Well, that's those two films. So I would give that one. You said you gave yours a C+ or C- or something. Yeah.
C+.
Yeah. I don't know. I'd probably give it, I guess, a B+ somewhere in there, 3 to 3, probably 3.5. I guess somewhere in that range for me. So, but yeah, definitely enjoyed it. Like I said, I feel like I kind of maybe. It not the movie's fault, but it gets downgraded just because I already knew exactly, essentially, kind of what was going to transpire in some capacity. I didn't know how everything was going to unfold, but I knew kind of what was going to happen for the most part. So, but cool, great choice. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into those real top 10s. Let's start with number 10, man. So your number 10 film, and I'll bring this in here for you, is going to be Insidious. What is that all about, sir?
Yeah, Insidious is, anybody who's been watching this at all knows that I'm a big horror fan. So it's a horror film, obviously. It's a haunted house movie, which is one of my favorite of many, many subgenres of horror movies. I love haunted house movies, good ones. And I remember when this came out, it's directed by James Wan. Before this came out, he was primarily known for Saw and the Saw series, which I think he only directed the first one, I think. But he was known for that series primarily, which was, grisly, gory, torture porn, so-called. And I've never been a big fan of the Saw series. I like a couple of them. Coincidentally, not the original. The original is not one of the couples in that series that I like. But so I think it kind of took everybody by surprise when he came out with Insidious, which is I think it's PG-13. It is PG-13. So it was definitely a different thing, and I think he really showed his real talent when it came to horror filmmaking, which is this kind of horror, which is like haunted house stuff. And of course, he went on. And now you watch Insidious, and you can see how it is kind of a dry run. It feels kind of like a dry run for The Conjuring and The Conjuring 2, which he also directed, which are also haunted house films that are even better than Insidious. But I always liked Insidious. It's got kind of it's definitely like a middle. I wouldn't say low budget, but it's definitely not a big budget movie. It's kind of medium budget movie, and it really kind of allowed him to show his stuff that he can really do like an old-fashioned haunted house movie that kind of riffs on Poltergeist a little bit. I always loved he did this in The Conjuring too, but I love the trope of let's bring in like some experts, with their cameras and their EMF detectors, and I always love it when that happens in a haunted house movie. So he definitely does that, just like in Poltergeist. And I don't know, I just think it's a really fun, almost like haunted house, amusement park, haunted house style haunted house movie. And it is really scary, in my opinion. It's definitely one that you can watch with the lights out and the volume up, and it'll definitely give you goosebumps. Even if it's PG-13, I have no problem with PG-13 horror movies because there's a lot of really good ones, honestly. But yeah, I love Insidious. It's one of my favorite, one of my go-to haunted house movies.
Cool. Yeah, I don't remember it all that well. I do remember liking it or thinking it was decent, but I mean, obviously, I'm not quite as into horror as you are, and the Conjuring films are just so far superior, in my opinion, that, you know, when I think of Insidious, which is kind of like, you know, like I said, kind of more of a, I don't want to say watered down version, but not as good version of haunted house films. You know, I'm just probably going to go with the Conjuring 1 or Conjuring 2, in my opinion, or so those are just the better films from him, in my opinion. So, but not a bad choice. So I just didn't love it, but cool. All right.
Well, you should.
Well, I don't. So, what do you got to say about that? Just joking with you. All right, moving on to my number 10, which is going to be True Grit. So yeah, True Grit is basically it's got a lot of stars in it: Jeff Bridges, Matt Damon, Josh Brolin, and then the girl is what's her name again? Can't think of the girl's name.
Haley Steinfeld?
Yeah, something of that nature. So basically, Josh Brolin's character basically murders her father, and the girl basically enlists the help of Jeff Bridges in order to go basically track down the man that murdered her father so she can get revenge. And along the way, they also pick up Matt Damon, who also agrees to like basically go with them. Doesn't really tell exactly why he's going with them. It's been many years since I've seen this, so I'm just paraphrasing here. And basically, the three of them embark on a journey to basically go hunt down this guy that murdered her father. It's a Coen Brothers film, one of their better ones. You know, I know you're always been a big fan of them. I like most of theirs, but I don't like all their films. But this is definitely one that I enjoyed. So it's a Western. I'm always a fan of good Westerns. Jeff Bridges is always great in almost everything. I definitely loved him in this film as well. Unfortunately, it's been about 8 or 9 years since I've seen it, so like I said, I'm kind of paraphrasing a little bit here, but it's a really, really good gritty Western. You know, it doesn't have as much action as most of the Westerns that I love, but it definitely has enough action in it to keep you entertained, especially towards the latter part of the film as well. So that's my number 10, True Grit.
Cool. Yeah, I like True Grit a lot, but also like you, I haven't seen it in a really long time. That's the only... it's you know, it's not one of my go-to Coen Brothers movies, but I definitely remember liking it a lot. And it's you know, like you said, Jeff Bridges is good just about anything, and this is definitely one that he does a good job, like always.
For sure. Cool. Moving on to your number 9, which I will bring in, which is Never Let Me Go. What is that about?
Cool. So Never Let Me Go is it's a science fiction film, and you can't really tell from the poster, but it's a science fiction film.
Looks like a love story from the poster.
It is. It's still science fiction. Yeah. So it's another one that I honestly haven't seen in a really long time. But it's a very good movie. It's not really spoiling it. They were trying not to let this out much when the movie was released, but it's revealed pretty early on in the movie. But it's about a group of young kids who you find out after a little bit of the movie goes by that it's set actually in the future when the characters that you're spending the movie with, they are actually clones who have been raised as, or basically the concept of the movie is that in the future, if you can afford it, you can afford to have like a clone made of yourself that is at the ready whenever you need like an organ transplant or something. Say your liver goes out, we'll just take it from your clone, you know, and the clones are basically kept on not really concentration camps, but they're basically confined to an area, and they're just basically at the ready whenever they need, you know, the actual person needs organs. Now that's not revealed right at the end of the movie, but it's not a spoiler. It's not like it's the third act twist or anything like that. But it's about it stars Carey Mulligan and Andrew, who we were just talking about before,
Garfield,
who was in,
what's his name, Garfield or something like that?
Andrew Garfield, yeah,
Yeah.
he was the Spider-Man from like one of the many versions of Spider-Man recently. But they fall in love, and they basically try to appeal because supposedly in this movie there's a clause that if you can demonstrate that you have sufficient humanity, and demonstrate it by falling in love with another clone, then you can be released from your contract, and that's what they're hoping for. But it's a pretty dark movie. It's a pretty sad movie. It's also got Keira Knightley in it too. I forgot about that. She's not one of the two main characters, but she's like the third lead. It's a pretty sad movie. It's kind of a bummer, but it's a really powerful movie. Really well directed. It definitely gets to me on a level that it's not a movie I reach for very often because it's kind of a downer, but it's definitely a really, really good movie, and one that just kind of sinks through the cracks and no one ever talks about it. But I think it's worthy of definitely at least one watch. But I have the Blu-ray. I'll send it to you if you want.
You talking to me?
I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the viewing audience.
Okay, all right. But you'll only use the Blu-ray to me. Yeah, I remember seeing it. I don't remember a whole lot about it. It didn't stick with me, so it's not one that I revisited. I do remember it being kind of a downer, and it's not really one that, like I said, it's just not a fun movie per se. But I mean, it's not the most like depressing film I've ever seen or anything, but it's just not one that I would gravitate towards if I'm in the mood to watch something. This isn't one that I'm probably grabbing personally. So, but yeah, cool.
Well, nobody's perfect here.
Yeah, I mean, and you brought that in as your number 9, so that clearly shows that you're not. Yeah, and it just FYI, moving on to my number 9 already. FYI, I for some reason it just ended up this way. Almost all of my films in my bottom half are like action films. So, but they're all different types of action. But my number 9 is going to be
surprise.
I know, right? My number 9 is going to be The Expendables. Yeah, and if you don't know anything about me, you should know I'm an action fan. So so my number 9 is actually going to be The Expendables. I just like this movie. There's nothing great about it. There's nothing, it's not going to do anything for you on a philosophical level or anything of that nature. It's basically just a bunch of cool guys from like the 80s and 90s that they threw into a movie and they just kick butt. I mean, that's pretty much the best way to describe it. I mean, it's got, Sylvester Stallone, Jason Statham, Jet Li, Dolph Lundgren, you know what I mean? Terry Crews, Mickey Rourke. And it's just a bunch of really, really cool guys that are going out and basically, like I said, just kicking butt, fighting, shooting, killing, battle scenes. There was obviously 2 sequels. I like the second one. I don't remember liking the third one so much. I want to say the third one's actually like PG-13 or something, which makes no sense. Wasn't it? There was something wrong. There was something about the third one.
I don't remember.
There was something about the third one that I thought was weird. But definitely, I like this one. I like the second one too, to a lesser degree. But the Expendables is just fun. It's a fun film. Like I said, it's not gonna change your life or anything. But if you're an action junkie like myself, you're definitely gonna like it. And that is my number 9, The Expendables.
Cool. Yeah, I like The Expendables. And I remember when it came out, it was like really, really cool that it was like, all these 80s action stars were getting kind of their like a revival for like for silly 80s action movies. You know what I mean? And I thought that was really cool. That was really cool. And when I saw it at the theater with you and a bunch of other people, I remember it was a blast. Like I had so much fun seeing it in the movie theater that night. And the thing is though, like I have the DVD and I've watched it at least twice since then, and it has just never been as cool as it was that first time in the theater. And that's no fault of the movie necessarily. But that's one of the reasons why it's not in my top 10, for instance. I remember really enjoying it, but every time I've watched it since, I've never enjoyed it quite as much as I did that first time. So, but it's a super fun movie. No argument for me.
Cool. All right. Moving on to number 8, which is going to be 127 Hours for you.
Yes, 127 Hours. It's a movie that stars James Franco, as Aaron Ralston, who was I know it was a big news story when this happened, but he was climbing, or I don't think he was climbing, but I don't think he was a climber. But anyway, hiker. He was riding a bike out in the middle of nowhere. He got his arm stuck between a boulder and a rock wall, and couldn't move. And he was there for 127 hours. You want to break down how many days that is? I don't remember exactly. I don't have a calculator. But he was stuck in that position.
It was a lot of days.
Yeah, with his arm smashed. Yeah, his arm smashed between a boulder and a rock wall for that many days. And finally, this is the real life story, by the way. Finally, he cut his own arm off in order to get out, because otherwise he was just going to stay there and starve to death, or
die from some capacity. Yeah. Or it was probably just going to fall off eventually anyways, because it was pinned up there, so it was probably going to fall one way or another anyways. So
yeah, it wasn't going to be usable again, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
It was smashed. But so this movie is directed by Danny Boyle, and when I first heard that they were making a movie about this, I was like, how are they going to make a movie about that? That's an interesting story to tell. So the way they do it is he pretty much he fills out that running time pretty well, I think, with a lot of, first of all, flashbacks about what his life leading up to that, who he was, along with fantasy sequences, dream sequences, and just kind of him kind of losing it all by himself there, pinned there for so many days, and then finally, of course, deciding to cut his arm off. And it's all really well done. I thought, like, I remember thinking, like, how are they going to make a compelling movie about a guy stuck in, and not that I didn't think that it could be done, because I've definitely seen good movies that are just set in one room, so I thought that it could be done, but it's typical Danny Boyle style, that he really amps up, like, the visuals and the sound and the music, and he made a really compelling movie out of this, I thought. So I really loved it a lot. It was actually even higher up in my top 10 back then. But just when it's been a few years since I watched it. This is where it felt right today when I made the list. So it's my number 8 for sure. I liked it.
Cool. Yeah, it's one that I like a lot. It's just one of those ones that I probably wouldn't put in my top 10 just based on the simple fact that it's not one that I would probably revisit. It's like one of those ones I feel like you watch one time, you're like, wow, that's really interesting. That's crazy. But I don't know, other than maybe to show somebody, I probably would never really watch it again, because it, like you said, it's basically a guy pinned up against a rock for most of the movie, excluding the flashback scenes. So not going to say it's boring by any means, but definitely, I don't know, after the first time seeing it and already knowing kind of the story going into it, I don't know if it's one that I would revisit personally. So not one that I own, because I just don't see myself rewatching it. So but definitely a good one. Would definitely be in probably my top 25 of the year. I don't remember exactly where I put it, but just wouldn't make my top 10. So cool. Good choice. Like I said, I'm not knocking on the film itself. It's not its fault. It's just one of those films that I don't think that most people are gonna rewatch often. So in my opinion, but I could be wrong. So I don't know.
I'm gonna rewatch it right now.
I doubt that, seriously.
Yeah, probably not.
Moving on to my number 8 is going to be Kick-Ass. I like Kick-Ass. Another action movie, fun. Definitely one that's, I like it because it's they're just like regular people that basically decide that they want to be superheroes. And there have been other films that have done that same thing, where somebody just one day decides they want to try to be a superhero. There's that other film, was like Super or something of that nature. I don't remember. Yeah, that's another one where it's like a regular guy that goes out and tries to be a superhero kind of thing. I do like it because he, basically gets his butt kicked for most of the film, and it's got Nicolas Cage in there, who's always, Nicolas Cage, and he's super crazy in there. But it's just like it's kind of a comedy, kind of an action film. Just a fun film, just a fun action film that I like. I just watched it recently, maybe a few months ago, and still holds up well for me, and that's why it's number 8 on the countdown for me. Kick-Ass.
Well, I'm not a big fan of that one, unfortunately. You would think I would be, because I'm not a big superhero fan, so you would think I would be really into the idea of like a really R-rated, filthy superhero movie about regular people.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. It just didn't land for me. I did really like Chloe Grace Moretz as Hit Girl. I really liked her. But I don't know. I didn't dig the sense of humor. It just didn't make me laugh. The story didn't involve me. I don't know. It was one of those where I was watching and I was like, I can't say it's bad, but it's not doing anything for me. So yeah. And then the sequel came along and I really didn't like the sequel.
Yeah, I didn't like the sequel, but yeah, the first one I enjoyed quite a bit. So, but
yeah,
cool.
Yeah, it's all right. It's all right. I don't hate it, but it's definitely not in my top, 75 for 2010.
Well, that shows the world what's wrong with you. Cool. Thanks for letting us know. Thanks for letting us know that you are exactly what we thought you were.
Yeah, I'm kick-ass.
Yeah, no, you're not. Number 7. Number 7 for you is going to be 13 Assassins.
13 Assassins, yeah. 13 Assassins is a action film, samurai film, directed by Takashi Miike. And Takashi Miike is a really interesting guy. He's made something like 300 movies or something like that. And I definitely haven't seen even close to all of those. And I haven't liked all of them either. But this one, he's really an interesting filmmaker because he makes movies that are so outlandish and silly and goofy. And then he makes movies like this that are just pretty much very straightforward. He makes movies that are really, really weird and out there, and then this one is like really straightforward for him. But I think it's probably my favorite of his movies. It's just a really good, really rousing action film, and one of my favorite films of all time is Seven Samurai by Kurosawa. So I like this kind of storytelling, and it's just a good story. You know what I mean? Like, it really gets you involved emotionally. You get what you're waiting for it to happen at the end. I mean, the bad guy really gets it, So I'm a big fan of like movie building up a good villain, but then like letting you have the catharsis of the villain getting what's coming to them, and this is definitely one of those. So I haven't seen it in a really long time, but as always, when we record these shows, it makes me want to, I was kind of not kidding when I was saying, now after talking about it, I kind of want to watch 127 Hours again. Well, after talking about it, I kind of want to watch 13 Assassins again too, because it's been a really long time. But I loved it, and I saw it at least twice in the theater. I know that.
Cool. I remember liking it. I didn't love it quite as much as you did. I like action films, and this one definitely is an action film. But I don't know, something about it just I never quite got fully invested in. I do remember liking it quite a bit, but not like top 10 or maybe not even runner-up level. And it's been many years since I've seen it, so I really couldn't put my finger on it. Not because it's foreign, because I do like foreign films. Is actually the next one on my film in my list is actually gonna be a foreign action film. But yeah, definitely just one that didn't move me as much as it did for you. So I don't know. Maybe I'm not as big into samurai films, I guess. I don't know. So, but yeah, cool choice. I liked it though. It definitely, would be in my, like I said, top 40 of that year. So. Who knows? Maybe top 30.
Cool.
Something like that. So, cool.
Top 10.
Definitely not top 10. Another one. I don't know if you've even seen this one. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. They're not really I don't think they're really your jam. But my number 7 is actually going to be, it depends on who you talk to. Sometimes it's Yip Man, sometimes it's Yip Man, but it's going to be Yip Man 2, which is another martial arts film. So I like the first one. I've liked all of them for the most part. They're just really good action martial arts film, kind of in the same vein of like the older Jackie Chan films. Definitely more like a Bruce Lee type film, where it's foreign, sometimes dubbed, sometimes I like the subtitles though. But yeah, he's Master Yip, who basically is the one who essentially trained Bruce Lee, I guess, if you will. So it's kind of like his story before Bruce Lee ever came along. So I've always enjoyed these films. They're great action films. you know what you're getting from him. There's always going to be like some bad guy that he has to fight, and lots of really, really cool fighting scenes, lots of really cool punching the chest and watching the guy fly back, kind of stuff like that. So if you're a big martial arts fan, then this is, which I am, then this is definitely one that you should check out. I should check out all the Yip or Ip Mans, whichever how you want to pronounce it. Definitely would urge anyone to check those ones out. But that is my number 7, Yip or Ip Man.
I don't think I've seen that one. Aren't there like a lot of them?
Yeah, there's at least 3 of them. I don't know if there would be on that. I know I've only seen 3 of them, so there might be more.
Okay,
of them,
I'm not sure if I've seen it. I don't think I have. But yeah, I mean, like I like martial arts films, but it's not like my favorite genre. You know, like you love westerns and martial arts films, and I like several of those kinds of movies, but they're not my go-to genres necessarily.
Right.
So I'm always open to seeing a good one, though, for sure.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, just different tropes.
Maybe someday.
Maybe someday. Yeah, just like I said, I like action, but I samurai films, I'm kind of like, outside of like Kill Bills or something like that. You know what I mean? But I'm not as is huge in those. So just different strokes for different folks, I guess. So, and moving on to number 6. For you is Toy Story 3.
Yeah, Toy Story 3. It's no need to really synopsize it. I'm sure most everybody has seen Toy Story 3. Like this is one that like when I saw it in the theater, I liked it a lot, but I didn't necessarily love it. But then when I rewatched all 3 of them, like I don't know, maybe a year ago, this third one really landed for me, like really well. I used to think Toy Story 2 was my favorite, but I think now it's probably 2 and 3 are neck and neck. But I think the animation is really good. I really like Ned Beatty as the villain. You can't tell he's the villain at first, but he's kind of like the really friendly teddy bear who seems a little too friendly, maybe a little weird, and then he turns out to be the villain, and he's actually a really intimidating villain, actually. And then, like toward the end, some people think it gets a little like too dark toward the end, and it gets pretty intense toward the end. But I don't know, it really works for me. I think it's got like all 3 of the Toy Story movies. It's got a lot of like really well earned emotion, which you can say about it. All of the best Pixar movies really know how to tell a story that kids can understand, but also gets to adults emotionally. And I think Toy Story 3 is really great in that respect. So yeah, that's my number 6.
Cool. Yeah, I definitely like Toy Story 3 a lot as well. I don't know where I rank the 3 of them. I'd have to really rewatch them. They all kind of sort of run together in some capacity, but excluding the latter ones, obviously, but the first 3 definitely. I definitely like that one. I definitely think that this one definitely was it was probably the darkest of the 3 of them. So I could definitely see why some people maybe didn't quite jive with it. It didn't bother me personally. I didn't really notice that it was that dark particularly until I started reading comments about it or I had other people talk to me about it. And, but the kids seem like they like it as well. So I don't know if it really is that dark or if it's just a society that we live in now where they complain about everything. But definitely, I enjoy it. I think it's a great one. Great choice. Nothing really negative to say about Toy Story 3. So, cool. Moving on to my number 6, which is probably another one you don't care for. I don't know. My number 6 is actually going to be Salt, which is another action film with Angelina Jolie. Another one that I really like a lot. I definitely pull this one out every so often. She's basically, I don't know, I kind of like movies that deal with like, The Bourne Identity, The Long Kiss Goodnight, films where you don't quite know what their character is supposed to be. Are they a good guy? Are they a bad guy? Do they have a memory issue? That kind of stuff. And Salt's kind of in that same vein. I always like kind of, I think it's always intriguing to find out exactly, because this one she's, you're trying to figure out, is she like a Russian spy? Is they're accusing her of being, or is she an agent, or, that kind of stuff. So it is very interesting to kind of watch how that unfolds. And obviously I like action movies. So just another one that's in the bottom half that are all action. They're not all action in my top 10, but that's just how they landed this year. So, but that is my number 6, Salt.
Cool. Yeah, I remember Salt was, I think maybe the only time you and I saw 2 movies in one day. Do you remember this? We saw Salt, and they were both at the Market Square Theater. We saw Salt and Predators.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
And both of them were like, okay, you know what I mean? Like, but I definitely like Salt more. I could say that. Yeah, I remember liking it. I don't remember anything else about it though, really, because I haven't seen it since that day that we saw it together in 2010. But I remember giving it 3 stars, and at the time, I was still on a 4-star rating scale. So that's 3 out of 4 is pretty good. But otherwise, I don't remember anything about it.
Fair enough.
It was good though.
Yeah, fair enough. I feel like that's been the way with this whole countdown this year, is that we don't remember most of them. I haven't seen it in a decade, but I loved it. But no, that's fair enough. Yeah, I just enjoy it. Like I said, it's a fun one. I like the films of that caliber. Atomic Blonde's kind of another one. You know what I mean? Where you don't.
I love that one.
So I like those kind of films. They I don't know. I just got a special place for those types. So I like those little action espionage, are they a good guy or they're a bad guy kind of films. I always get a kick out of those. So
yeah, I think the reason why Atomic Blonde really sticks with me where Salt didn't is that Atomic Blonde, it just has so much style, and like all that good music and that 80s setting.
I like Atomic Blonde more. I definitely like Atomic Blonde more than Salt, but yeah, I would agree with you. So
yeah, cool.
Well, that is it. That is our bottom half of our top 10. So as I said, if you're wondering, these aren't the films you would put in your top 10 or whatever, we do have another half of a show. You'll definitely want to come back for that, or we'll do our number 5 to number 1, and then we'll also do our honorable mentions as well. So even if your films aren't in the top half, then maybe they're in our honorable mentions, which I think for both of us, we like a lot of movies throughout the year. So if I say something's in my top 20 or even top 25, I liked it. You know what I mean? I liked it quite a bit. It's not one that I just didn't like or anything like that. It's just, you got to do a top 10, and the chips fall where they may. You know what I mean? So and you even probably more so, because you give probably 25 5 stars in some years. So I don't know. But so even more so, a film could be like number 22 and be like, oh man, I gave that 5 out of 5, man. So
yeah.
So whereas me, it's like once you get past, usually for me, 2 or 3 in a really really good year, it starts trailing off. So I've had years where my number 10 was like 3 stars. So that's just how it goes. But cool. We thank you guys for watching. Like I said, definitely tune in for the next one where we do the top half of our top 10 films of 2010. We'll also have our challenge films for 2011. I don't know when we're going to shoot those shows for 2011 at this point, but we'll at least probably give our challenge films for those as well. So, but we thank you guys for watching. Obviously, if you like the channel, we ask that you like, subscribe, make sure you hit the bell notification, and we'll be back again soon with another show for you guys. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.